Let's talk more about the president's foreign policy challenges. The most pressing of them, of course, North Korea tonight. Elliot Abrams is Senior Fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington. And Michael O'Hanlon, Senior Fellow in Foreign Policy at the Brookings Institution, also here in Washington. Gentlemen, if you stand by, we just moments ago received a statement by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, and in part it reads on the North Korean situation. The United States strongly condemns North Korea's launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Testing an ICBM represents a new escalation of the threat to the United States, our allies and partners, the region and the world. Global action is required to stop a global threat. Any country that hosts North Korean guest workers, provides any economic or military benefits, or fails to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions is aiding and abetting a dangerous regime. All nations should publicly demonstrate to North Korea that there are consequences to their pursuit of nuclear weapons. We intend to bring North Korea's provocative action before the UN Security Council and enact stronger measures to hold the DPRK accountable. The United States seeks only the peaceful denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the end of threatening actions by North Korea. As we, along with others, have made clear, we will never accept a nuclear-armed North Korea. The President and his national security team are continuing to assess the situation in close coordination with our allies and partners. Again, a statement just moments ago, as I was introducing you all, from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Michael, your thoughts on that?
Hi, Brett. Well, my first thought is that this sounds like an intensification of the economic pressure. If one listens to Mr. Tillerson's comments, he began by reminding other countries they have obligations about North Korean workers who may be on their territory, presumably about the kind of business they do with North Korea. What that suggests to me is that Secretary Tillerson is aware that there really probably are no good military options for the United States. We could try to shoot down missiles before they're launched, but that risks escalation, and it may not even be possible to do it very well if it's a mobile missile launcher, as you reported 15 or 20 minutes ago, and we don't know where the missile's launched from. So it just is a reminder, the economic instruments, however unsuccessful they've been so far, may still be our best recourse if the whole world gets behind it. In conjunction, Elliot, with that statement, at the same time, we're getting news from South Korea that the U.S., along with South Korea, holding joint ballistic missile drills in response to North Korea's ICBM test. Again, that's South Korean media reporting coming out at exactly the same time as that statement.
Well, we're going to find out one thing interesting if there is that UN Security Council session that Nikki Haley wants. Where are the Russians and the Chinese? Are they going to be willing to have additional sanctions on North Korea? Or do they just want more talk and we have to do this alone? I think, you know, flying over North Korea is a good thing to do, but the question really is, are we going to get serious about financial and economic sanctions? We were for a while, about 10 years ago in the Bush administration, and then we let up on them. What I mean is, for example, if you're a bank and you're doing business with North Korea, you're out. No more business with the U.S. That's significant sanctions. That would affect China, Chinese banks. Are we going to do that? That's the kind of tough measure that we should be willing to take.
Do you think that's what you hear in that statement from Rex Tillerson?
Unclear. Tough talk, but are we willing to really go forward with it? Because it's going to interfere with U.S.-Chinese commercial and financial relationships. So that's the question we're going to find out in a day or two. Are we really willing to do any of this?
Yeah. To your point about the mobile launch, if in fact that's true, experts in the region say that's what they see in the photographs. It adds another dynamic to the challenge, not only with the ICBM that can reach Alaska, a two-stage missile, but also the fact that they could move them around and we wouldn't be able to stop them before they launched.
That's right. With the North Korean missile threat so far, at least whatever medium to longer range threat there's been, frankly, some of those missiles might not have made it anyway, but we would have seen them being prepared for launch for an hour, 2 hours, being fueled. Liquid fuel rockets on a launch pad, you can see the preparation, which means you can preempt in the classic sense of the word, if you choose to do so. And we would have had that option at least in war, even if not in peacetime. Secretary Carter, Secretary Perry, two recent Democratic secretaries of defense, wrote an op-ed in 2006 saying we should consider that even in peacetime. And so you have those kind of options with a fixed launch site. You don't have that option nearly as easily with a mobile missile. You may be able to try to shoot it down in the ascent phase, but you may not see it as it's being prepared for launch.
Elliot, President Trump is getting ready to go to the G20. Along the sidelines there, he's going to have the first official bilat with President Putin, the first official bilat actually since 2015 between the U.S. and Russia. It comes as Putin meets with Chinese President Xi tonight, talking in part about North Korea. Here's a soundbite from earlier.
As a part of mutual bilateral priorities is a complex of solutions to the Korean Peninsula problems with a goal to guarantee a stable peace and stability in Northeast Asia. We agreed to actively develop our mutual initiative based on Russia's step-by-step plan for Korean settlement and Chinese ideas, at the same time freezing the nuclear capabilities of DPRK and large-scale military exercises by the United States and Republic of Korea.
So again, he says no more exercises. The U.S. obviously is doing something tonight with South Korea.
Well, this is an important meeting. You know, the first Kennedy-Khrushchev meeting, Khrushchev decided Kennedy was basically a wimp, and that led to a crisis in relations. The critical thing here is that we say no to Putin on that, because they've been trying for decades to get us to stop doing military exercises with South Korea. They want us out of there. So if we agree to that, it's a terrible beginning of the relationship between Putin and Trump. I hope he rejects it.
Quickly, this has changed the dynamic. I mean, this is a different level we're at right now. Right. True?
Yes, I think so. And by the way, I agree with Elliot. However, if we could get a freeze on nuclear production that we could verify, or that the Chinese and Russians and some other third parties could verify, I would consider a freeze for a freeze. But the one that's being offered now is not at all favorable to American interests.
Right. And quickly, Elliot, on this other topic that is not getting a lot of coverage is this battle between Qatar and these other Gulf states about what's going to happen and for Qatar possibly supporting extremism and terrorism.
The Qataris need to come at least halfway. They need to stop doing what they're doing. If this results in the end of the Gulf Cooperation Council, it's just a gift to Iran, and we should really be working hard to avoid that. It would help, by the way, if we had a State Department full of diplomats. And one of the problems here is Secretary Tillerson is a kind of one-man band. We've got no Assistant Secretary for Asia, got no Assistant Secretary for the Near East. Makes it hard to do all this diplomacy.
Okay. Elliot, Michael, fortuitous 4th of July to have you in. Happy Independence Day. Thank you very much.